How are you
Hey,
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Congratulations for becoming the
Thank
women's champion. And I hope
thank
you're
you.
being safe as well.
Oh, yes, of course.
So tell me, how was it, your first WrestleMania in front of fans and you winning the title at 24? How was it? Talk to me a bit about this. How did you manage to get the feel of the situation? Has it sunk in yet?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every day it sinks in a little bit more, but it still hasn't completely sunk in because it was just such an incredible feeling for me, especially after my first one being in front of zero fans in attendance.
Yeah.
So to have them there, it was just a real special feeling. And to pretty much have like all my once in WrestleMania moments all together, like it was absolutely insane. Like I got to have New Year's Day and Ash Costello play me to the ring, and I got to wrestle Asuka, someone who I wanted to face for a long time. And then I also became the Raw Women's Champion. So like it was just everything that I had ever wanted. And it's real hard to let it sink in. And it was real hard to like sort of not crack under pressure and like stay like confident within myself in that moment, because it was like just I was so overwhelmed by so many different emotions, and it was just absolutely insane.
So at 24, how difficult is it to, cope with all this? Either be it victory, be it defeat. How do you cope with it mentally? The pressure of being a star in a big promotion like WWE. How do you cope with the mental thing? What do you do to, take your mind off, or how do you cope with all this?
It's honestly really, really difficult. It is. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on my shoulders, not only being a Raw superstar, but being the Raw Women's Champion. I have competitors coming from any angle, and I just want to, like me being me, I just want to do the best that I can do all the time. So I think I put the most pressure on myself than anyone else does. I don't really know how I deal with it, to be completely honest. Like I haven't really put that into words. I sort of just like I have to remind myself that I'm here for a reason, and like I'm better than I think I am. I just got to keep reminding myself that pretty much, and I just try and like stay calm and like keep my mind distracted at times. So like working out is a big one. Like I have to work out because that's like my downtime where I can actually like, it's weird because like I'm working out, but I'm like relaxing my mind at the same time, and like just sort of like, I don't want to say meditating, but like sort of that, and just calming myself down from like the week that I've had.
So was it always a childhood dream? As in, did you dream of becoming a Raw champion at the WWE, at the WrestleMania, biggest of all stages? How did this all happen? How did you get into the sport? And I've read that you played a lot of sport when you were young in Australia. So how did it? How did you get into WWE wrestling as such? And how did WWE happen?
So yeah, I played every sport that you could think of as a kid. Like I tried everything. I
Yeah.
wasn't really a school child. I didn't like being in class and like learning. So like anytime they'd be like Friday afternoon sports, I'd be like, sign me up, whatever it is, let's do it. And I'd
Yeah.
honestly just do anything. So I just grew up really, really active. And I played soccer for 9 years, and it got to the point where I just I wasn't happy playing it anymore. It wasn't like
Mm.
the same fun factor that it was like a couple years before that. And I had been watching wrestling for a few years, and I was like, I would love to do it. Like I wonder if I could. And like I thought about it for a couple of years, and we went on holiday to Queensland, and we found a federation over there. And I was
Oh.
like, I didn't know that there was actually wrestling in Australia. Like
Mm.
I didn't put two and two together. I didn't even
Mm.
look it up, to be completely honest. So we went to the show, and I absolutely loved it. And when we came back to South Australia, me and my friend, we looked up to see if there was any federations in South Australia. And that's when we stumbled across Riot City Wrestling. And honestly, like I fell in love with Riot City as soon as I went to the first show. It was just such a amazing performance, and like all the superstars on that show, like they were so excited and so happy to be performing in front of the crowd, even though
Mm.
there was only like maybe 200 people in attendance, maybe. um but you could see that they loved it, and I really connected with that show. And I watched it for 2 years because I was only 14 when I first went. And then when I was 16, I was finally like, all right, no more soccer. Like, no more, it's done. I want to try wrestling. I'm old enough now, like I can try out. So I went to the tryout and they let me in. They're like, okay, like you've passed it, you're in, which was like a huge surprise to me because I was a huge Riot City wrestling fan. Like I was like one of the biggest fans. You could always, if you go back and watch the videos, you can always hear me screaming in the background. Like that's how crazy I was. So I was like, oh my God, they let the crazy girl in. That's amazing. And I don't know, that's where my career started. And I really do owe it to them because I had the determination to go to training every single training. I barely missed any trainings and they taught me everything that they know. And luckily for me, like WWE came to Australia when I was 17 years old. So I'd only been wrestling for a year and they sent me an email and then I sent them back all my information. They're like, oh my God, we didn't realize you were 17. We'll get back to you when you're 21. I'm like, okay. When I'm 20, they're like, hey, we're coming back to Australia. Here's your tryout. And I was like, oh my God, like this is my time. So I went to the tryout and I guess I did well because here I am today.
Of course, yeah. So coming back, so the backlash is happening. So did you expect it to be a triple threat? So does Charlotte Flair's inclusion, is it a positive or a negative for you now? And how determined are you to defend the title?
To be honest, I feel like I felt it coming. I thought it was going to be at WrestleMania, to be completely honest. I thought that she'd be back before that whole show went down. And there's pros and cons in this situation. The pro is I get to punch Charlotte in the face again, which is something that I really want to do. But the con is that I can lose my championship without getting pinned. Yeah. And Charlotte's sneaky and she knows this. So there's so many ways that I could lose my championship and I don't like that. And it is something that I have to remember and remind myself in the match that I have to have eyes in the back of my head no matter what. I think it's going to be a fantastic match because I like being in the ring with Charlotte and Asuka. It's always very, very hard hitting and it's always a struggle and a fight. And I do like that, but I just don't like the fact that I can lose my championship without getting pinned. That's the biggest downfall for me, but I can't wait to punch them both in the face. That's definitely a pro.
Is there a point to prove? Listen, you want to punch her on the face. So is there a point to prove from last year? You lost the WrestleMania NXT and now you have a chance to prove it at the biggest stage and prove that you are here to stay. Is there a chance? Are you looking at it that way?
Of course. There's always redemption in that. Losing the NXT Women's Championship to Charlotte, that was something that I didn't want to have happen. So this is my one chance to sort of redeem myself and get back at her for beating me last year. This is my one shot. And hopefully there's more down the road. But so far, this is my one shot to get my payback and get my revenge. And hopefully I can pull the 1, 2, 3 over on Charlotte, but I guess we'll see.
I've been reading a lot about you as in the main roster, WWE Raw. So people are saying that, Rhea is someone who can carry this brand forward for the next 5 years, for the next 6 years. So do you also feel that way? Do you think you have arrived here and you're set for bigger things here? And do you feel pressure about it as well?
A little bit. It's so weird to me to think that like I could carry the women's division or help carry the women's division. Like it's just, it's so crazy for me to think that way. But I do see it happening. I see it happening with people like Bianca Belair, Raquel Gonzalez, Dakota Kai, Candice LeRae. Like I see it happening with all them girls, and hopefully one day, like we do all us NXT girls, we come up and we carry the women's division, and we keep fighting for the women's division and showing everyone that we can do exactly what the men can do. But yeah, it's a crazy thought to say the least, especially because like me, just looking at me, like I'm a little girl from South Australia, who just love wrestling, and now I'm here and I'm Raw Women's Champion, and I could be the current and the future of the women's division, and it's just absolutely insane. But yes, I do see it happening.